Now at 10, as the conflict in Ukraine continues, a local church is reaching out to those in need overseas. And lawmakers want anyone who feeds an alligator in South Carolina to pay up. We'll explain how stricter the rules are about to become. Also tonight, the Queen of the Queen City, what we learned about Queen Charlotte and the legacy she leaves behind. Your news at 10 starts now.
Live from Television Park, this is WJBF News Channel 6 at 10 on MeTV.
Good evening, I'm Denise Jefferson. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. John Hart is on assignment. Coverage you can count on begins in Ukraine, where as the conflict continues, a local church is reaching out to those in need overseas.
She said at night, you can look out the window and it's like daytime because of the bombs going off.
For Pastor Jeff Miller, the violence in Ukraine hits close to home.
It's a big difference for me when I know people and I've been in their homes and eaten their food and spent weeks with them, and then now knowing that they are hearing bombs, wondering what they're going to do with their little children.
Through its missions outreach, Vineyard Community Church has been providing people in Ukraine with emotional and financial support since 2012.
And just saying that we care about something other than Augusta, Georgia. We want to be involved, and we've made trips over there and invested in those things. So it's very important to us.
As the conflict intensifies in the country, Miller says their efforts are needed now more than ever.
I've eaten at these folks' tables, and their houses are probably empty right now because they're in makeshift bomb shelters, literally in Kyiv. So, when you see it, how it affects you, it all of a sudden is different.
As his church continues their outreach efforts, he says right now the people of Ukraine need prayers and support from the community.
Support is number one. Knowing that people here care.
Pastor Miller says the church also held a prayer vigil on Sunday. Governor Brian Kemp is cutting state ties with Russia. He issued this statement. It reads in part, "Last week our office began reviewing and taking actions to ensure Georgia taxpayer dollars are not being used to subsidize Russia. So far there has been one instance, and we will be fully divested from that agreement by midweek." Senator Lindsey Graham is also calling on more efforts from America to stop Russian progress. He believes leaders should expand domestic production of oil and stop buying barrels from Russia.
The one thing that we're not doing that we could do is declare war on Putin's oil and gas industry. 40% of the revenue for Putin's war machine and economy comes from the oil and gas sector.
Graham says he is working with leaders to pass an emergency supplemental package to provide weapons, food, and economic help. The situation in Ukraine and rising crude oil prices have some consumers feeling the pain at the pump. The cost this week locally is $3.58 a gallon. A spokesperson from AAA says what's going on in Ukraine and the rising price of crude oil over the last few months are to blame. Experts say it's too early to know if the cost will go up due to the Russian invasion, and if so, by how much. But there are some ways you can save money at the pump.
Some gas stations, if you pay in cash, it's less than paying with a credit or debit card. Keep that in mind. Also, what a lot of folks don't know is get the junk out your trunk.
Here are some other tips to save at the pump. Join a fuel rewards program and also check the AAA website for the lowest prices around. Friends and family are saying goodbye to their loved ones as nearly 4,000 soldiers from Fort Stewart, Georgia are heading to Germany to assist NATO troops. Their mission is to help defend NATO territory and deter Russian aggression, not fight in Ukraine. Officials say our troops have deployed to support other U.S. allies recently. Georgia lawmakers say it's something soldiers are trained for and prepared to do for our country. Well, now it's time to take a look at your weather forecast with our meteorologist, Jenna Petracci. And Jenna, today was a little bit cooler than the weather we saw last week.
Definitely cooler, but overall still not too bad. We were in the 60s. You can see on our almanac we reached a high of 65 degrees when our average is 67. So it definitely felt cooler, but really we were right around average. Our low was a little bit warmer than normal though at 46 degrees compared to our average of 41. Right now on our Jiffy Lube Skyview Network cam in Augusta Regional, you can tell those winds are very calm. That flag is not blowing at all and skies are clear. Temperatures temperatures are starting to get chilly. 45 at Bushfield, 56 still at Daniel Field, and 42 over in Aiken. Looking at our satellite and radar, we did have some clouds pass by earlier, but now we're left with clear skies going into the evening with all the rain well to the southeast of us. Notice those showers out to sea along with a lot of clouds, but for us, clear skies across Georgia and South Carolina. So for your morning stroll forecast tomorrow, we will be waking up to cold conditions, temperatures in the mid-30s with a few high clouds in the sky, but those will clear early in the morning just like they did today. 9 a.m. 46 degrees with mostly sunshine. So it will be a very warm week, warming up each day into the 70s tomorrow, 80s later on in the week, staying sunny and dry with no more big cool downs in the near future. More details on your forecast coming up, but back to you.
Thanks, Jenna. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp signing off on new redistricting maps that have been the subject of much discussion in Augusta, specifically one precinct. Some people oppose the maps that were redrawn by State Senators Max Burns, Mark Newton, and Lee Anderson. They held a press conference last week with things getting heated between residents and their commissioner, Catherine Smith McKnight. The new maps are not the ones approved by Richmond County's ad hoc committee, Augusta Commission, and school board. Some of the people living in Elderberry say they could take this issue to court.
Cut all the blacks out of District 3, shoved them all over to District 5, which is heavily black already and Democratic.
I think the whole thing is a pure mess.
Ad hoc committee will hold a meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. at the municipal building. The race for Augusta's mayor will have one less candidate. That's because Commissioner Dennis Williams, one of the first to announce he was running for mayor, is now withdrawing from the race. Williams says it's because the field is way too crowded.
And it's a joke. You know, I've talked to people that I know across the country. Man, you all had 25 candidates. You know, how could you ever expect to get any good quality with 25 candidates? So I'm pulling myself out the race.
Williams says he has not made a decision on who to endorse for mayor. A major upgrade of Augusta's energy systems is on the way. Commissioners approving a contract with Trane Incorporated to modernize its heating, air conditioning, and lighting. The cost is more than $24 million. The city is borrowing the money and will pay it back through savings on its power bills, which the company says will be $1.5 million a year.
And yes, it becomes an actual guarantee that that we can provide on paper for Augusta Richmond County for the purpose of this project.
$1.5 million.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't make that?
Trane writes a check. We don't like writing checks, but we will if we have to.
The project will include a solar panel canopy that will cover roughly 30% of the parking lot of the municipal building. The Georgia State Senate passing a bill today to get rid of the need to carry a license for a handgun in public, eliminating a current background check requirement. Democrats proposed an amendment that would expand background checks, but it failed. The bill passed along party lines and now goes to the state house. It's backed by Governor Brian Kemp, who says Georgians have a constitutional right to protect themselves. The Richmond County school system is dropping its mask mandate starting tomorrow. Students and teachers will have the option to wear a mask except for on school buses. Drivers and students will still be required to wear a mask at all times on the bus. Starting today, masks are no longer required on school buses in South Carolina. The CDC and DHEC say it's optional. And starting tomorrow, schools and child care facilities in South Carolina may be able to stop test to stay or quarantine policies as well. It's part of the state's new approach of treating the virus as endemic. This means that schools and child care centers will treat COVID similarly to the flu. If sick rates stay below 10% over a 2-week period, contact tracing, masking, and quarantining can end. But students and staff will still have to isolate if they show symptoms. Soon, you may not be able to raise the front end of your truck while lowering the back end in South Carolina. Senators voted 33-1 to ban what is commonly called the Carolina Squat truck modification. Supporters say the changes prevent a driver from seeing pedestrians of smaller cars.
Trucks that are jacked up, as these squatty trucks are, clearly have an impaired sight line.
It's dangerous if you've got a situation where you can't see clearly in front of you, and that doesn't need to happen.
The bill now heads to the South Carolina House. A new bill has unanimously passed in the South Carolina State House, and it involves the way you interact with alligators. Melissa Myers has that story.
This is what I think is perhaps a good example of responsible government responding to constituent requests.
The bill would make changes to the way alligators are managed and handled.
We see required reporting of activities for people that receive the depredation permits and tags. We see the conditions being set for relocations of alligators, and we see an expectation encoded into statute and law.
Key changes include increased fines and a misdemeanor for feeding or harassing alligators. Current fines range from $100 to $150. This would increase to $500 to $1,000. The bill also lays out specific guidelines contractors must follow when capturing alligators.
That gives some real teeth to this to help discourage people from feeding and potentially habituating alligators that may subsequently become dangerous.
Representative Jeff Bradley helped author the bill. He says the reason behind it follows an incident in 2020 where players at a Hilton Head Island mini golf course sat on top of a restrained alligator after crews removed it from a pond.
We're trying to help bring a little sanity to the removal of an alligator. The public doesn't need to be anywhere near an alligator when it's pulled out of a pond.
He says it's really a response to a local issue in conjunction with the DNR, all to address concerns of citizens.
It's interesting. I see that. I get that. I totally get that. But you and I don't need to be on the alligator's back.
The House unanimously approved the bill, which now goes to the state Senate. Security fencing is back up around the U.S. Capitol building ahead of President Biden's State of the Union address tomorrow. Police are stationed at major intersections and highways, and the National Guard is on standby. The Russia-Ukraine conflict and the economy are among the topics the president is expected to cover. The State of the Union is tomorrow night at 9 p.m.